Irving spent the first 6 seasons of his career in Cleveland, where he was an All-Star 4 times, won Rookie of the Year, and also won a chip. He then moved on to Beantown, where he would spend the next 2 seasons. Kyrie was an All-Star in both seasons, but the Celtics never made it to the finals during his time there in Boston. And he's now in his 2nd season with the Nets. This season, Kyrie joined Larry Bird, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant as the only players to average 25 points per game in a 50, 40, 90 season. Let's not forget, y'all, that Kyrie's tenure with the C's didn't exactly end on a high note. Also this, he will play in front of Boston fans for the very first time in the series, obviously due to COVID. Stephen A., tell me this. What does Kyrie need to prove in this series?
That he's focused and not distracted. That's all. We know what a superstar he is. We know that he's box office, even though, Max, I don't know if you've seen the reports, but actually the New York Knicks sold out in 20 minutes for their playoff game. Meanwhile, the Brooklyn Nets evidently need James Harden to help sell playoff tickets. I mean, I just want to point
Stephen
that out.
The topic
Orange
would be
blue
peace
skies,
in the
baby.
Middle East, and Stephen A. would talk about actually the Knicks.
Orange and blue skies, baby. Orange and blue skies. That's all I'm trying to say. But anyway, let me get back to Kyrie. He's got to be focused. There's nothing about his game to talk about here. Playoff basketball, last time we did see him in the playoffs, he averaged 20 against Milwaukee, got taken out in 5 shots, just 35% from the field and just 21% from three-point range. I don't anticipate that that's going to happen this time around, not when you got Kevin Durant and James Harden as your teammates. We all know that, for all intents and purposes, this brother's box office. I think he's probably the greatest show in the NBA this side of Steph Curry. Kyrie is just that spectacular. And playing with Kevin Durant and with James Harden, we know how lethal they are. We know they should be the favorites to win it all. We know they are the favorites in most people's minds to win it all. So what could potentially get in the way? What could potentially get in the way are distractions, meaning you really don't care about basketball. There's too much going on in the world, and that's where your mind is, and you're really not that interested in playing, et cetera, et cetera. That kind of thing is the only thing that can happen. I don't believe that will happen come postseason time because it is the postseason. And Kyrie understands that he's here for a reason, and he and KD got to win the chip. Got to win the chip. It's a chip or bust. Everybody knows that. So he knows that, and as a result of that, I think that he will show up and what have you. But again, in terms of answering the question as to what he has to prove, he just has to prove that he can stay focused on the issue at hand, which is basketball, okay? He needs to be focused on that for the next 2 months so they can win the chip.
Well, I mean, you keep bringing up KD and Kyrie. They got to win the chip. To me, the key there is actually Harden and D'Antoni, but we can talk and debate about that all through the playoffs, I'm sure. What does Kyrie have to prove here? Stephen A., the fact is Kyrie's a baller when he needs to be. The fact is, or at least there's a good chance he might lead the team in scoring through these playoffs, even with KD on the team. We don't know. Let's see how this all pans out. But I do think he has some stuff to show here, and that is maybe not primarily to the fans in Boston, but to people who saw him join a Celtics team and sort of destroy the chemistry. And you can say whatever you want. Kyrie joined a team that performed a little bit worse with him on the court than with him off, which is insane. How do you add Kyrie to any team and it doesn't get better? That's insane. Might be the most skillful player who ever lived. Same thing happened in Brooklyn, by the way. Until Harden showed up. It was KD and Kyrie and Harden out of control. But you know what happened in the last series, Stephen A., who people forget about is Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker is the closest approximation to Kyrie Irving in the NBA. Similar games. He's just like a smaller, not quite as good Kyrie Irving. People forget that because Kemba's been hurt. At least the first half of the season, he wasn't Kemba Walker. But I saw Kemba Walker again very recently, and he outplayed Russell Westbrook. And he's the guy where people are like, yeah, he can kind of do what Kyrie does, but instead of being a guy who might erode your chemistry, he's a guy who's going to, build up the chemistry. He's a good locker room guy. He's going to be a leader, right? And Kyrie, if he has anything to prove in this series, to me, it's no. Kemba Walker's one level, I'm another. Kemba does not replace me. For example, Kemba can't outplay him. You mentioned Kyrie being a distraction. Right, that can't happen. He, especially against the Celtics, especially with fans in Boston, Kyrie can't show up and be any kind of problem or show that, yeah, the guy who replaced me, the version of me who's not quite as good, but in important ways better, that can't happen. He's got to be better than Kemba. If he's got anything to prove, maybe that's it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.